It's that time again where we bring you the Talk with Tariro. And with me this week is my co-host.
Welcome to the talk, and today we are joined by Luckmore and Debrain.
We are discussing a serious issue, if we must say. And we actually felt that it's important that we bring men only, young boys, because what we have witnessed is when confronted with challenges, this gender finds it very difficult and often resort to suicide. And bear in mind, we are not saying it's only boys and men who become suicidal. We also have a significant number of women who are suicidal. We are going to look at that in our upcoming episodes. So I want to start off with Debrain. When we are looking at what's happening at the moment, said cases, last week we were talking about Mjolo on the show. And Mjolo is one issue where particularly young people in university, I think 2021, we had about 4 cases of young boys in university, one in secondary school, I think it was Form 2, who actually committed suicide because the girlfriend had said, this is the end of the relationship. Confronting suicide. How is the situation? What's causing it amongst you as young people?
Suicide is actually a very big issue that is happening within the communities, not sparing anyone. It's affecting both the male counterpart and the females as well. And research shows that 90% of the suicidal cases are related to mental health issues, drug and substance abuse, and relationships at large. They are contributing to that. And these are some of the key drivers as to why these young boys or young people then resort to suicidals. I'll give an example of issues to do with the abuse of drugs and substance abuse. When we look at crystal meth.
Yes.
We have had cases of young boys who then write a suicidal letter, and they just maybe from the anosdones first floor. I remember when I was in secondary for Form 6 with another boy, I got shot up examination, I got package to anosdones. And one of the issues is we as young people, we tend to maybe not have someone to share our issues with. When you talk about issues to do with suicide cases relating them to sexual reproductive health,
yes,
we have issues of boys. Maybe the penis is not erecting or anything small. And these are issues which can also contribute to these suicidal cases. And something needs to be done. And it's a serious issue that has been also exposed or exacerbated by the COVID-19 situation. When we had like the 4 boys from GZ2 committing suicide over relationships. Yes, so there's a lot that is happening in terms of suicidal cases, but these are more attributed to drug substance abuse, mental health issues, and relationships individually at large.
How do you feel about opening up?
So usually I think it depends with what the case is. I would want to talk about maybe in relationships. Gone are the days when we used to share with our aunties, with uncles. These days there's social media, and it's not that authentic in terms
and
of
not friendly as well.
So you tend not to have anyone to share with. If you tell your friend that my name's Kana, you don't know what your friend is going to say to the next friend. If you say to your brother, your father, they say, wow, that's my relationships. So at the end of the day, you keep things to yourself. And at the end of the day, you see maybe committing suicide is an alternative to your problems, of which it is not.
Does this relate to family dysfunctionality or what?
So I think it also comes back, not as the issue of families or parents failing to raise their kids, but there are other issues which are sensitive, which you can't just open up to your father, saying, STI. These are very sensitive issues.
I believe you can open to your father if the relationship is good.
Yes.
I believe you can open up to him any kind of situation, any kind of issue. You can open up to your father if the relationship is healthy and intact.
That's another dimension that Alice is bringing out in terms of how maybe families could actually just promote that dialogue, have that dialogue. But I'd want to also then go to Luckmore from your own experience. As a young person who's openly living with HIV, openly talking about it. But we have situations where sometimes young people, and Luckmore works and empowers young people. So we would want to also hear, Debrain spoke about the sexual and reproductive health aspects, but I would want to zero in on the issue of maybe HIV. Do we get to witness those cases? Because he spoke about issues of mental health, lack of that kind of support. Maybe I got to know my HIV results, I don't know how to handle it, that kind of thing.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll come back to your question, but I just want to add something pertaining the issue that Alice asked to Debrain in terms of are we not able to open up as boys? But I think this goes back to the community, to the society, on how we define a man. Because when we grew up, we were told that murume muna kashinga, murume muna singacheme, murume muna anita zakadai so kuti ndichibuda pachena nikula kwe situation, it really becomes a challenge. So now moving on to this issue, research also have shown that people living with HIV, they actually experience more mental health challenges as compared to those that are not HIV positive. But however, I want to zero in terms of young people living with HIV, because that's my area. So usually we have more programs that are designed for adults as compared to young people. And when you talk about HIV these days, we mainly focus on what we call the biomedical approach. Watula mapiriti ako ere, una TB ere, una chia, una
CD4 count.
But we seem to forget that these people, they need someone to talk to. Maybe it's in Africa where we underestimate the power of having someone that you can talk to about of the situation that you are encountering. So we have so many cases of suicide, especially among young people living with HIV.
We need to just take a quick break, and when we come back, Luckmore is still going to continue alluding to the issues of young people who are living with HIV and the number of suicide cases that we witnessed. Join us after this short break. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion where we are addressing the issue of suicide. Luckmore, you were speaking about the increase or the prevalence of suicide case amongst young people living with HIV. You can continue.
Thank you very much. So I think the most difficult thing about living with HIV is accepting your status. So this is one of the key drivers, so I can say, for suicide, because it all goes back to the society again. When we talk about people living with HIV, we have nicknames that we actually give them. So I'll just give an example whereby munanoti urupa bus, and the destination of that bus is the grave. So munangona ngositariso bangoti, so there is no need for me kuti ndirambe ndichirarama, because already kana ndapinda mubhazi kwangosara kuti ndisvike, and kana ukanzwa katsikwa nenzo. So izvozvo ndo zvimwe zvekuti it really increases the risk of someone to commit suicide. And also we always reach to a level whereby we want to get married. We want to initiate these intimate relationships. And the most difficult thing is to tell someone that you are HIV positive. Even our parents, they find it difficult to tell
you.
To tell us that I'm HIV positive. So what about me telling my peers? And what we do is that we as boys, me and Debrain, takagara tripa kona, panika mskana karudarika, and Debrain knows that this girl is HIV positive. Unogona nzikoti, baba, munozoti kama magetsi rai. Ini ndikuziya kuti I'm also HIV positive. So ndichinzwa shamwari dzangu dzichishora someone because are HIV positive.
So kuti magetsi it's saying anokupisa.
Anokupisa, ukabata magetsi unotsva. So ndozvatirichaidza kutaura. So izvozvo zvinogona kutoti so am I going to die ndiri single, pasina munhu anondida and stuff. And then another issue, yes, we do mjolo, and kazhinji we as young people sekushandisa protection and stuff asizvedu because it's not planned.
Yes.
Ngoti wangowana mukana. So kuti uzoti ndimhanye uku ndidzoke, it won't be. So when we have unprotected sex, and this was your status yangu, yes, because your status yake. So munhu akazongoona from nowhere HIV positive. zvinotongoshungurudza kuti uziva kuti pane pasina option and then the person prefers kuti kufa kuri naye.
Luckmore, so are we basically saying awareness is still a challenge?
I won't say awareness is still a challenge, but I think we need to balance our interventions. Not just focusing on the biomedical, the treatment side, but we also need the psychosocial and the counseling interventions to be intensified more. So maybe about 50% of our resources, they are channeled to treatment. In Zimbabwe currently as we speak, akuna post yemuna anonzi counselor pa hospital. Those are donors vanotounza macounselor pama hospital, but we as a country we don't value those people. Kunzi psychologist unoshaita program yako haite, tinotoita ma psychologist kuti tiende ku Australia, yet we have people in this country who need those services.
So coming to you, Debrain, you spoke about issues of particularly just understanding mental health, understanding depression. I think as Africans, those things we tend to look at them as being foreign. For one to be said, this one has got depression, they are on antidepressants, or they've been admitted in hospital because they've got depression. Half the time we tend not to accept or believe it's possible, and we do not offer that kind of support to that particular person. What have been your experiences, particularly looking at young people who then eventually end up committing suicide at worrying numbers like those we witnessed in 2021?
So I'll take it this way. Within the context of our country, we have taken mental health issues as something that's exotic, something that's Western, something that's foreign. For me, when you know I'm depressed, because we don't value those things. And even you see that, you even realize that even services for mental health, psychosocial support, we started to maybe value them this time because of COVID and all that, and interventions from CSOs. But within our systems, we never valued like what Pama saying. So we value my candidates or something new. If I'm depressed, I have to go maybe a psychologist, therapy, something to get back to normalcy. It's something that was not being valued. I think you can see maybe probably by the laws of our countries. In other countries in America, if you are an addict of drugs and substance abuse, they take you for rehab services. But in Zimbabwe, we have criminalized those people that are abusing drugs. And that is even, you see, the reason why our government, our country is reluctant to provide rehab services because drug and substance abuse have been criminalized. Therefore, they've been reluctant to come up with psychosocial support for addicts. Because addiction for drug and substance has got 3 stages. There's the first one where you can say maybe you can come back to normalcy. The second one, service that the third one, we don't start
so you're waiting for the person to die.
Exactly. That's when these people decide to commit suicide. To say, we have seen even some of our big artists singing through their music. They've ended up abusing drugs. I must die. You see, so these are issues that we have been overlooking as a country and as programmers, but they are very critical, considering that we have got high cases of young people committing suicide.
And you know, just recently we heard even from the USA, former Miss USA committed suicide. I actually saw on social media people saying, we thought everything was okay for her. She looked so strong. She was there for people, you know, where sometimes you tend to look at somebody and say, she is strong. And that pressure that's put on you to say, you are strong, everything is okay. Then next thing you hear, boom, the person. So that kind of support, how best, Luckmore, can we address that?
All right. So, Kalaramiro Kiedu, I think it's very rare for just someone to pick a phone and just to call with Debrain, I just wanted to check on you. Kachinji kacho toto simza phone nchida kukweleta mari kana kuita chimwe chinhu. So I think starting as the charity begins at home. So as individuals, I think we need to take care of each other. Hakuna munhu anokwanisa kuzvimirira rwani. We need to check kuma relatives yedu kuti ari sei nechi ende munhu ukamubvunza kuti are you okay, vazhinji vacho vanongoti yes, I'm okay. But if you observe, then you realize kuti ndo ziripo. So the first thing is, let's take care of each other. And then the second thing is that we need intervention, especially from the government and other ministries and other CSOs, that mainly focuses on the issue of mental health. Chese tinozvida isusu antinoomera kubhadhara dollar kuti tipe psychologist, but if the government provides that for free in our public hospitals, I think hapana munhu anombotya kuenda ungonotaura kuti ndo zviri kuitika. So the government inofanira kutointervene in our schools, university muri kuitwa zvese izvozvo. Even the schools edu primary and secondary education, vana they have all the situations anotoda kuti vataurwe now. So these interventions, they should be there. I think the Education Amendment Act, the inyowani yacho yaitaura kuti every station inofanira kunge ine SRHR personnel. But I think there should be also a psychologist pachikoro anototaura nevana within these issues, but vamwe vacho havatokwanise kutaurira shamwari kana kutaurira maticha, especially relationship yevana nematicha yakatooma.
So we'll explore that after this just quick break. Luckmore is speaking to the issue of the need for relationships, particularly young people and their teachers. Join us after the break.
Welcome back to the talk, where we are discussing suicide and the factors that contribute to it. Luckmore, there is a point that you have raised concerning conversation. I realized as a nation we are not at that stage where we can have a dialogue or we can talk about things freely. You go through some situation and you try to confide in someone else. They tend to just rub it off. What are you talking about? At some point, I was in depression. I fought it by myself. Why? Because I knew family. Yes, and this is a depression. Then my friend was like, you're a strong woman. You know. Yeah. I literally remembered those words. You're a strong woman, and they killed me even more. And at some point, I actually wanted to die, and I'm like, she just doesn't understand. When I needed someone to pour out my heart to, when I needed someone to have a conversation with, there was no one. So what do you think about these conversations? How can we help the society to embrace conversations?
And to add to what she's saying, to recognize that my friend or my sibling needs help at this point.
I think we have an advantage of media. I think no advantage yatinayo, and you have realized that we have invested more in advertising things that does not help us. But if we try to advertise some of these things using our broadcasting channels that are available for free to people, I think it can assist to at least capacitate everyone about how to solve.
Sometimes, Luckmore, what I would want is that kind of support where it starts from home, where it starts from even my friend who's next to me. Because half the time when you are depressed, when that mental health kicks in, you are depressed. You don't even want to go on Facebook. You don't even want the radio to be there. So it's that person who's there within the community that I would want to come and assist me. Debrain.
These services, the social cycle support services, counseling, I think they start right from the home, from the house where you are coming from. I think that is when we need as a country, as programmers, to intensify the positive parenting sessions. I think those ones, they will really work, whereby we are trying to capacitate our parents on how to initiate a conversation with their children. And then some of these issues, they can get to solve them at a family level. Then I want also to add in what Pam was saying, to say, yes, our country, or within the 2018 school health policy, it also talks about these services. But we then realize that there's maybe lack of that political will, I don't know how to take that together, whereby we can prioritize these psychologists. Because guidance counseling also offers those things as a learning area. But there's also the psychology part. but it's rare for me, or in my life when I was still at high school, I've never seen a psychologist. Kungono office kuti ndo psychologist wakaona zikunetsa yomoni, we've never seen those things. So I think there's need for us to increase that will as a country, as organizations, and intensify positive parenting so that this journey begins at home. We need also to capacitate these parents in the community at large.
Our economic status as a nation, do you think it's contributing to these suicidal cases, and how?
So this is an obvious case. I think Debrain missed it at the beginning when you were asking about some of the things that are it's an obvious case because you'll be trying but uchiedza zvese but urikungwafa but hapana chiri kubuda, so you end up giving up. So what's the reason? And kazhinji kacho vanhu ndo paunozoengage in those criminal activities, and kana wakuzotsvagwa futi imwe stress yawakuzowedzera pamusoro. So yes, the economic challenges, they really contribute.
I also think that is why most youth are now resorting to drugs and substances
as a coping mechanism.
So it contributes really.
So when we are looking at it now and trying to then say, because what we would want it to get to a situation where we are letting young people, we are letting even adults know, because it's not just young people. As a mother, if I don't have school fees for my daughter, I don't even know where the next meal is coming from. That's where you see a mother has just died or a father has just committed suicide because they've become hopeless. I want to start with Luckmore, where we are looking at a situation where we are speaking to maybe adolescents, young people who are living with HIV, where we are saying, no matter the challenges that you face, suicide is not the solution. Yes,
indeed, it's very true. So HIV is not a death sentence. And one thing that we should understand as young people living with HIV is that HIV is in the blood and not in the mind. I can just give a short experience about myself. So when I was tested and when I was told that you're HIV positive, I actually wanted to be a doctor. But that moment that I was told that you are HIV positive, everything changed, because I thought that I was going to die maybe in 2 years time or what, but now I'm regretting. Maybe by now you should have been you should have introduced me saying Dr. Lucky. Yes. You know? So I actually realized that HIV is in the blood. There is nothing that you cannot achieve. It's only Mwari ndiye
exactly.
So tikada kumira pakuti because I'm HIV positive, nothing works.
Exactly.
So how did you manage to accept your reality?
I was helped. Like I joined a support group, and then I met other peers who were also HIV positive. That's when I started accepting my status.
So it goes to the point of saying once there is a support structure, it will help. As we wrap up the show, Debrain, your message to Zimbabweans, particularly young people, where we are saying suicide is not the solution.
Yes, true. Suicide is not a solution, it's not an alternative. There are so many coping mechanisms that you can use that are available. For example, I think as peers, the first port of call to relieve our issues is our friends. You can tell your friends, and maybe you can get a solution from there. So suicide has never been a solution. And also when it comes to these issues to do with relationships, yes, there's need for us to have more coping mechanisms at every institution. Like what I was saying, kuti kana pa university pedu tine office specifically a psychologist and offer those services for free from primary to secondary, so that we are able to then reduce those suicidal cases.
And Alice, as we wrap up the show.
Well, I think it's also very important that we take advantage of social media. We do our campaigns and become activists. Like Mo, are you doing that already?
Yeah,
speak out as much as you can. Make noise about it. Kusvika vamwe vazvigamuchira kuti so this is normal. I can be a doctor, I can be whoever I want to be. So social media, as much as it is toxic, it can also help us to relay a very good message a very life-transforming message.
Definitely. Yeah, that's our discussion today. What we would want to see as a country. Indeed, 2021 was a worrying trend. There was a worrying trend of suicide in our country, particularly with young people. Some even just killing themselves because a girlfriend has ended a relationship. From what we have heard from the young people, and the message that we have for you as the Talk with Tariro is to say suicide can never be a solution. Whenever you feel burdened, find someone to share with. Until next week, it's goodbye.